A single agave plant can live for 30 years, then erupt into a 20-foot flowering tower before dying. The Aztec civilization called it metal, the tree of wonders, and documented over 400 distinct uses in pre-Columbian codices. Archaeological evidence from the Tehuacan Valley places agave cultivation at over 9,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest cultivated plants in the Americas. A 2014 study published in Economic Botany confirmed that ancient Mesoamerican communities derived food, fiber, medicine, and building materials exclusively from a single agave species across multiple generations. One plant, one family, 1 century of survival. The industrial world discovered only one use worth monetizing. It bottled that use, branded it luxury, and exported it globally. Everything else, the fibers, the syrups, the ancestral knowledge, was quietly abandoned. The tequila industry now generates over $13 billion annually. The communities that cultivated agave for millennia see almost none of that wealth. The irony cuts deep, and somewhere buried in the biology of this desert giant lies a secret the health industry has never fully reckoned with. Agave americana belongs to a family of plants that evolved in the harshest, driest landscapes on Earth. Its leaves, each row, unlike, they reach the colon largely intact, feeding beneficial bacteria. It is a fundamental biological distinction. The agave does not produce sugar the way a sugarcane field does. It produces a slow, complex carbohydrate architecture shaped by millions of years of desert evolution. Modern food science calls this prebiotic activity. Indigenous cultures called it medicine long before laboratories gave it a name. The plant understood the gut microbiome before humans invented the term. Mesoamerican peoples extracted the sweet sap of agave long before European contact. The fermented version, called pulque, was consumed ceremonially for over 2 millennia. The unfermented, reduced sap, called aguamiel, was a household staple, traded across trade routes stretching from present-day Arizona to Guatemala. Spanish colonial records from the 16th century describe aguamiel as the primary sweetener of indigenous communities across central Mexico. It was not an exotic delicacy. It was everyday nutrition. When European sugar arrived, backed by colonial plantation systems and slave labor, aguamiel was systematically displaced. Not because it was inferior, because it could not be produced at industrial scale with the same ease as cane sugar. The agave demanded time, knowledge, and patience. A mature plant takes between 7 and 12 years to produce its maximum sap yield. That timeline is incompatible with quarterly profit cycles. The market does not wait for plants that think in decades. When an agave plant reaches maturity, a central flowering stalk called a quiote begins to form. Before the stalk fully emerges, harvesters historically removed it, a technique called castration, to redirect the plant's energy. This single intervention causes the plant to flood its core with concentrated sap. A single mature agave americana can produce between 20 and 40 liters of raw sap over several months. That translates to approximately 6 gallons of processed syrup from one plant. No fertilizer, no irrigation, no annual replanting. The desert does the work. Modern agricultural economists estimate that 1 hectare of mature agave can yield more fermentable sugar per unit of water consumed than any conventional sugar crop. In an era of accelerating water scarcity, this is not a trivial statistic. It is a blueprint. Industrial agriculture chose the water-intensive path anyway. It chose the crop that needed more, cost more, and sold more. The agave waited in the desert, unbothered, producing in silence. The tequila industry did not accidentally stumble upon agave. It systematically selected one species, Agave tequilana, the blue agave, and built an empire around it. Mexican law now legally defines tequila production as limited to 5 specific states and 1 specific species. This legal architecture, formalized in the 20th century, effectively erased the diversity of agave use from commercial consciousness. There are over 200 species of agave native to the Americas. The tequila industry cultivates 1. The remaining species, some with superior fiber content, some with richer sap profiles, some with extraordinary drought resistance, exist outside the economic system. They grow in marginal lands, harvested by small communities using techniques passed down through oral tradition. No patent holds them. No corporation owns them. That is precisely why they receive no research funding. The distinction is not botanical. It is economic. Before synthetic fibers colonized the global textile market, agave was one of the most important fiber crops on Earth. The extracted fiber, called henequen or sisal depending on species, was used for rope, sacking, hammocks, and ship rigging across the pre-industrial world. At the height of henequen trade in the early 20th century, the Yucatan Peninsula supplied the majority of the world's binding twine for grain harvests. The economic collapse of the henequen industry in the mid-20th century, caused by synthetic nylon replacing natural fiber, left an entire regional economy in ruins. The agave fields remained. The knowledge remained. The plants continued growing, indifferent to market collapse. Recent material science research has revisited agave fiber as a sustainable composite material for construction and automotive industries. A 2021 paper in Composites Part B documented agave fiber reinforced polymers achieving tensile strength comparable to fiberglass. The desert plant is re-entering the material economy. Quietly, without announcement, as it always has. Agave syrup entered the global health food market in the early 2000s under a specific nutritional promise. Its glycemic index was marketed as significantly lower than conventional sugar. That claim was not entirely wrong, but it was dangerously incomplete. The low glycemic response occurs because agave syrup is composed of up to 90% fructose. Fructose does not spike blood glucose, but it is metabolized almost exclusively in the liver. High fructose intake, documented in a 2013 study in Advances in Nutrition, is associated with increased hepatic lipogenesis, the conversion of sugar into liver fat. The health food industry sold a partial truth. It highlighted the glycemic advantage without acknowledging the hepatic load. This is the recurring pattern. A plant with genuine ancestral use, consumed in small, seasonal quantities as part of a diverse diet, gets industrially extracted, concentrated, and mass-marketed. The original context disappears. The nutritional complexity is flattened into a selling point. And the damage arrives quietly, years later, in clinical charts. Agave americana is currently classified as an invasive species in parts of the Mediterranean, South Africa, and Australia. It arrived as an ornamental. It stayed as a survivor. Every continent has learned that this plant does not accept the terms of its own marginalization. In Mexico, indigenous communities are leading a quiet resurgence of traditional agave cultivation. The movement is not nostalgic. It is strategic. Diversified agave agroforestry systems are being studied as carbon sequestration tools, with some researchers estimating significant above-ground biomass storage potential across degraded lands. The plant that civilizations were built on is now being seriously considered as a tool for healing landscapes broken by industrial agriculture. 9,000 years of use have earned it that consideration. The tequila bottle captured one story. The desert kept the rest. The full account of what agave offered, and what was discarded, is still being written in the soils of Oaxaca, Michoacan, and the Sonoran borderlands. Some knowledge cannot be patented. Some plants cannot be owned. The agave has always known the difference.